Webcasting from Southeast Kansas, I'm Jonathan Switzer, and this is the Roboblog Chronicles, Episode 6. This week's topic is, well, Sentinels. Because I'm just still in a Sentinel state of mind. Sentinels is just such a tricky, weird thing. Because it was supposed to be 65 new episodes of Robotech. It was supposed to be the new episodes of Robotech for the 1986 season. What it wound up being is 5 novels by Jack McKinney, 75 plus comics by Tom Mason, Chris Ulm, and Jason and John Waltrip, 8 scripts released to the public of the 65 written for it. Handbook here for the comic book series. Art book for the aborted TV series. And 2 role-playing guides. That's a lot of material for a failed production. That is a lot of material that got out to the public that was yearning for new Robotech. I cannot think of another failed production, another aborted production, another production that crashed and burned that has been so well documented. Except, on the other hand, it really hasn't been well documented. We understand the follies of the production. We've seen, those of us who have the material, have seen 8 episodes worth of script. There's a lot of line art for the show that was mostly released in this book, the Robotech Expeditionary Force Field Guide, which it's got a ton of really nice line art of the mecha stuff. This here is the GMU, the ground-based military unit. There's stuff in here which isn't in anything else. For instance, there is a Pegasus mecha. Yeah, Pegasus mecha. That was designed for, I think, an earlier iteration of Southern Cross that they decided to use for Sentinels. And the only documentation for that is in the Robotech Expeditionary Force Field Guide. The problem with the role-playing books is that they assume that all of the Expeditionary Force mecha that you see in the new generation has been developed and has been deployed during the Sentinels era, whereas it's made pretty clear in Robotech Art 3 and all the other versions of the Sentinels that the Cyclone doesn't get deployed until the new generation TV series. That's where all this documentation goes sour. There is so much contradiction. The comic book series starts off as an adaptation of the scripts. It starts off very solidly following the scripts, eventually veering off into its own directions and spots, like the wedding itself. Rick Hunter and Lisa Hayes' wedding has a lot of material created by the writers, where I think there's a subplot where T.R. Edwards cartoonishly tries to break the two up, using a tender moment between Rick and Min-May as sort of blackmail material, and Vince Grant finds out, and it backfires. But as the SDF-3 heads off into towards Tyrol, it begins to more closely adapt the novels. And then, around book 3, they start really adding new subplots that weren't in the novels, since the novels had all been done and published and out. The novels, as I understand it, the novelists, Brian Daley and James Luceno, operating under the pseudonym Jack McKinney, were told, I don't remember where I heard this, but I believe they were told not to adhere to those scripts. They were told to veer off in their own direction. And as a consequence, you wind up with things being inconsistent between even the finished animation and the novels. Because in the animation, the Inuit scientist on the moon of Tyrol is Tesla. Same thing in the original scripts. In the novels, they call him Aab Sim, and then Tesla only shows up when the Sentinels do. This is really kind of important, because if you were following my little project last week, Tesla finds out there's something in the Royal Hall. He finds out there's some sort of cryogenic chamber in the Tyresian Royal Hall. He heads on down there, and he finds out in the basement of the Royal Hall there's Zor's body. Now, anybody who's read the novels or read the run of the comics knows that wasn't there. I think part of that is because Aab Sim is just, this little flunky that T.R. Edwards eventually just shoots in the head. Part of that is the fact that complicates matters. In fact, because we only have those 8 scripts, we don't know how this subplot pays off. It's not even mentioned in Robotech Art 3 that this sort of stuff happens, I don't think. Because it was quite the revelation to me when I first read the scripts. There's a lot of stuff like that. Especially if you go through Robotech Art 3, there are all these odd things that go on that totally contradict what you see in the novels, what you see in the comics. According to Robotech Art 3, the battle on the Sentinels world of Praxis is supposed to be this big, long, drawn-out war. Whereas when the Sentinels get there in the novels, in the comics, there's nobody there. Actually, in the comics, they find one person. In the comics, they find one survivor. In the novels, they don't find anyone. And at the end, the planet explodes. There's major digressions like that. The role-playing books suggest that there's only 2 Haydenites, Ved and Sarna. And in the novels and in the comics, this is not true. They go to Haydon 4, and it is being run by Prince Administrator Valad, who is Sarna's father, which is kind of a dumb idea. It humanizes the Haydenites a bit too much. At least that has long been my opinion. Which leads me to one of the big problems with the Sentinels looking at it from today, looking at it from 2007. It's a problem of, Star Trek, for that matter. This whole, each planet having a sort of monolithic culture. And even worse than the Sentinels is the fact that these are all monolithic cultures. There's no divisions. There's no, difference between landing here on this planet. Like, if the Earth was one of the Sentinels' worlds, there'd be no difference between landing in the United States and China, United States and some African country. On all of these planets, we see we do see so little of them. There is that as well, which is itself a problem, because these are stories of liberating the whole planet, and the way the Sentinels treat it is you get into the capital, you save the capital, you save the entire world. Okay, that's all we have time for this week. In the comments thread, share your opinions of Sentinels, please. Anything you like about it, anything you don't like about it. Do you have problems with it? Which version is your favorite? Let me know. We'll do some more discussion of Sentinels. The end of this week, maybe this weekend. So that's all. Captain JLS, signing off.